the end of your project and you're kind of done with whatever kind of business you've been doing. Here you can see I kind of messed around and figured out how to get the paint things to go on transparently, which again, if you watch that video, you can go back to this one, and you just want to make sure that your painting tools, when you pick your new layer, can be a solid. But you want to go ahead and click the paint tool, and then you want to, when you start, you got to open it up, and when you start painting, you want to make sure that it says paint on transparent, and then it'll like let you paint a transparent, paint over like basically a blank layer, and then whatever you do with that will show up later on in your composition, and you'll see the black line that we painted to come in there at the end. So again, once you get that all figured out, if that's the way you want it to look, this is not the work of genius that I would put into like my full art exhibit, but it definitely is a lot of experimentation, right? You can go ahead and get ready to render it now. So when you're ready to export or render it, you just go up to File, Export, and there's different options, but the one that I always recommend everyone use is just to click this one that says Add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue, which is going to open up a second piece of software called the Adobe Media Encoder. It'll take it a minute for it to load in, and basically this is you have to make sure you download this off of the store, that Adobe like Creative Cloud site. You want to make sure you've got it downloaded, but it's going to give you a whole bunch of options for how you download and export projects, right? So here you got your H.264. It'll say that. Sometimes it'll say something different. There are all these options in here for choices. I think the H.264 one is just still the safest and most usable one. It goes to YouTube and everywhere really, really easy. So I would say always pick H.264, and then this is, you click here to decide where to send it. So again, you would want to go to your thumb drive, right, and pick that, and then go into this, and then sometimes I make a folder I call something like, just so I can kind of keep them all organized, right, because sometimes there's a few, let's call this test one, not testy, but test, okay, and then you can click on that and just click save, and now that's told it, okay, I'm going to put it there. This is my format, and this will give you some options for choices that you can make about like what you're doing, right? So you can change your size if you want to, so you can make this a smaller scale if you want to do that. If you don't have audio, I always just say uncheck that. So if it's not really an audio file, or there's no music or sound with it, you can do that. Lots of different choices you can make with effects and things. I wouldn't really mess around with that too much, but sometimes people want to uncheck the audio because you don't want some weird random clips audio to export for you. And make sure you have H.264 set, and just click OK. And then if you just hit the green button here, that's going to start the render, and it'll kind of basically it's cooking in the oven now, and it'll ding and pop out, and we'll get to see what we actually have. So again, sometimes if your computer's slow, you don't have a lot of RAM, it's going to be really hard to get a real representation of what your project looks like until you go through this step, until you actually render it out. So wherever I decided to put that, it should be there now. So if I go in my folder, look up where I said I wanted to put it, there's my final renders, and I can just double click this and it'll play in whatever media player I have set up, and well, there you go. Oh brother. So but it gives you a it lets you see, this is what I've actually gotten done. So my suggestion is always to render early, not to wait until 20 minutes before something is due to somebody, and then try to render it out, because it can take a long time depending on what you're asking it to do and how fast or slow your computer is. And sometimes your computer will crash when you're trying to do this. So I always tell everyone that at least one day before something is due somewhere to someone, render out a draft of it. Render out a usable version, even if it's not all the way done or you don't love it. Anything you can present to the person you're supposed to be giving this to. Make sure that you render something out. So keep it safe, and then keep working on it till the very last minute if you have to try to get it perfect. But Render often and wait and see how it turns out. Again, this is just a great way to check too. Like, you might think something looks fine, but if your computer's not fast enough to really render the video well in After Effects, then you won't notice how fast that is going across the page, right? So maybe I don't like that. Maybe I want that to slow down a little bit so I can render it, go, make some notes, go back in and check things and change them, and then try rendering it again. So it's up to you to always manage your time well to get your things ready to go on time. And again, my best advice is just to render out drafts as you go, just to check things, and then also just to have a backup so you don't walk into that meeting without anything to show somebody. It's okay if it's not perfect. I mean, you want everything to be as high quality as possible, but if you wait till the last minute and have nothing to show, that's really nobody's fault but yours, right? So try not to get into that situation. Do your best to avoid those kind of procrastination moments. And once you get the hang of this, you'll understand all of it and it'll all go pretty easily. But for now, this will get you through all the steps. Keep in mind the Adobe site has a million great tutorials. YouTube has a million great tutorials. So when you're looking for something specific that you want to try and do, just Google it and see what you can find.